Yes, awesome. Yeah, so hi guys, my name is Patrick McCorry. I'm an assistant professor at King's College London, and today I'm going to present some work we've been doing for 2 years. And I couldn't have done this without the support of many collaborators, including Andrew Miller, who's actually in the audience, so that's really exciting, Surya Baxi, Ido Bentov, Chris Buckland, Sarah Meiklejohn, and Cara Rust. And I've also got to thank the people who support this research as well, so the Research Institute, the Ethereum Community Fund, and the Ethereum Foundation, because without that funding, it's quite difficult to do research. So the real question is, actually, let me ask one question. Who's heard of state channels before? About half the audience have, okay, that's really exciting. So hopefully I can remove some misconceptions around them as well. So the real question is, why do we need state channels? Why are state channels a necessary thing for cryptocurrencies? And as most people in the room are aware, cryptocurrencies do not scale. Bitcoin supports 10 transactions per second. Ethereum supports 12 transactions per second, sort of. It depends on how big your transaction is going to be. So the real question is, why do cryptocurrencies not scale? And at the heart of it, it appears to be this public verifiability property. And what do I mean by that? So let's look at the Bitcoin world. Today, the blockchain is 180 gigabyte. I can download it to my computer today, and I can validate every single transaction that's ever occurred. I can validate the entire network. So I can actually hold the miners accountable. Everyone in this room can probably still do that today. But the trade-off is, once we reach that throughput ceiling of 7 transactions per second, as we've seen last Christmas, the fees go from 2 cents to $20. So we actually reduce the diversity of peers who can afford to use the network. To the other extreme, let's pretend we could support 5,000 transactions per second. If we could achieve 5,000 transactions per second, we should have more users, because transaction fees should be really low. But then we lose the one thing that makes cryptocurrencies really beautiful. Most people we actually reduce the diversity of peers who can validate every transaction and hold these miners accountable. So the question is, with this public verifiability property at the back of our mind, how can we scale cryptocurrencies? And there's 4 different ways to do it. The easy approach is, let's forget about public verifiability. Let's have some single trusted authority who signs blocks and he just pumps them out. And then we get this 5K per second quite easily. But we don't want to do that. We're cypherpunks. We're sick of trusting people. We want to be able to hold them all accountable for maintaining the ledger. The next approach most people are looking at is, let's tweak the consensus protocol. Let's tweak the blockchain protocol. So that's sort of like Thunder, as we've seen yesterday, with Affinity's doing that. We could throw a DAG at it. We all love DAGs nowadays, although they blow our minds. And maybe we could achieve 5,000 transactions per second. But then we run into that public verifiability problem. So it doesn't solve the problem at the heart of scaling cryptocurrencies. So what other people are looking at is sharding. So the idea is that there could be a shard for hotel bookings and a shard for train bookings. If I only care about hotel bookings, I just validate this one shard, and I don't care about the rest of the shards. So now we can distribute that task of validation against different subgroups. But at the end of the day, if you care about cross-shard communication, or if you care about hotels and trains, you still need to validate everything. So we can distribute it, but we don't get rid of the underlying problem. So what I'm interested in is this off-chain approach. And the way it actually scales the network is not by increasing the network's throughput. It simply just reduces the load. So instead of sending every single transaction to the network, we send one transaction to set it up, then a group of parties can just locally execute the smart contract amongst themselves. They do thousands of transactions locally, and at the very end, they send one transaction to close the channel with the final output. So that's what I'm really excited about. How can we do this local computation with the same security guarantees as running it on the global blockchain? And there's lots of ways to do this. So this approach first emerged in Bitcoin, with Spielman channels, duplex micropayment channels, and Lightning channels as well. And then in the Ethereum world, we also have write-in channels as well. So these are payments. They're typically between 2 parties, as Dan just demonstrated, for a channel. And the only thing they can really do is financial transactions. Maybe at the end of the day, that's all we need. But I'm more interested to see, can we push it a little bit further? So instead of just doing financial transactions, Could we execute a smart contract locally between parties? Could we do gaming? Could we do voting? And can we do auctions as well? And now there's several different state channel constructions out there on how to do this. There's Sprites by Andrew Miller there. There's Perun channels, counterfactual channels, and Kassoon channels as well. So we know how to build state channels. But in the summer, what I arranged was this master workshop for people working on state channels. Because there's 7 different teams in the world. They're all doing slightly different things. And I wanted to work out what they were doing. So we all met up in Berlin, and we all did our presentation one after another. And what I learned is that we all disagree on what a state channel actually is, and we all have completely different terminology, which is why there's this language barrier between the teams. So I'm going to give you my biased opinion of what a state channel is. And a state channel is fairly straightforward. The idea is that we have a group of parties, and they've locked coins into the blockchain. And now they can install a smart contract off-chain. Let's pretend it's a battleship game. And then what they do is, every time there's a new state update, everyone has to agree to this. So, I play my move. The new state of the channel is that I've played my move. And everyone has to sign the new state update. And that's basically how a state channel works in a nutshell. Now, the state channel should give us 2 guarantees. Well, the underlying blockchain should give us these 2 guarantees. First is safety. I should always get the coins I deserve. If the channel breaks down, I should always be able to get my 10 coins from the channel. And then what really pops up in state channels and for HTLC payments is this new liveness requirement as well. What if I have a conditional transfer set up? What if I'm playing a poker game and the counterparty just stops responding? The blockchain should guarantee that transfer or application should always progress. So I can destroy the channel, redeploy the application to the blockchain, and just finish its execution there. So there's a safety guarantee and a liveness guarantee for these state channels. Now, as I've mentioned, there's 5 or 6 different constructions on how to build state channels. But so far, they've eluded real-world use. There's some dummy examples out there, but no one's really using state channels. So at the IC3 bootcamp in the summer, me and my little team thought, let's go build a state channel. Let's go build an application. And let's actually work out a real experiment of how this is going to work in practice. We had some questions we wanted to answer. So given an existing smart contract, what are the minimal modifications we need to make so it can be deployed in a state channel? What applications make sense in a state channel? And I'll get to this near the end. And finally, what are the inherent weaknesses? So what's really beautiful about a state channel is that we get instant finality. So once everybody has agreed to the state update, we can consider that final. And what's even better is that it's free. We can run smart contracts for free, locally between parties. There's no transaction fee to the blockchain, and there's no central hub that we need to reward either. So these smart contracts are free, and that's what makes it really exciting. So to do this, we built the 2-player game Battleship. So raise your hand if you know about Battleship. Who's played the game as a child? Half the room, okay, that's not too bad. Now, I always get this criticism as why do we build Battleship? It's a bit of a weird application to play on a blockchain. And the reason we did this is because every time you go to a state channel talk, the use cases are rock, paper, scissors, tic-tac-toe, the Go game, like that Asian one, and chess. And we wanted to work out, are these actually real applications? Well, they really work on the blockchain. We're going to call their bluff in a sense. So we went and built it to see how it would work. So that's basically the idea of our experiment. And our experiment has 2 smart contracts. The first is the application contract, and that is just the Battleship game. And it would run as normal on the blockchain today. The second contract is the state channel contract, and is simply responsible for the dispute process. So it locks the coins in, and if the state channel breaks down, we can work out what the final state was agreed off-chain, and then redeploy the Battleship game. So that's all the state channel contract will do. It's very simple. Now, for the experiment, we assumed the Battleship game was already deployed on the blockchain. And you could continue playing Battleship on the blockchain if you want. Now, Alice and Bob, they come along and say, let's cooperate. Let's take this off-chain, let's put it in the state channel, and let's start playing Battleship off-chain. So they both sign the lock message, they send that off to the blockchain, the state channel is deployed, and the Battleship game all of its functionality is frozen. So it's still there in the blockchain, but it's completely frozen and no one can interact with it. So it's locked, in a sense. And now we have a state channel. So the question is, how do we play Bottleship off-chain? So let's assume the first state is 0. So every state has a counter or a version. And the initial state of the game is as Alice's turn to take her shot. So if you guys squint hard enough, Alice is going to shoot from a real Bottleship, bam. This is what it's like in Alice's mind as she plays this blockchain game, because it's so exciting. Okay, so how does she perform her attack? What she does is that she proposes the attack command. So she wants to attack a Bottleship. She gets the current state of the game, and then she just executes the command. And then she computes the new state of the game where she has taken her shot. She signs the new state, and she sends it over to Bob. And now Bob has to do the computation again to verify that that really is the new state. So he gets, the current state of the game, the attack command. He executes it as well. He computes the new state. And then he simply checks, does this state match what I got from Alice? Yes, it does. So he signs that, and he passes his signature over to Alice as well. And by the end of it, they should hopefully both have signed the new state, and now this is the latest state of the game, state 1. And this keeps going. We get state 1, state 2, state 3, state 4. Whatever has the largest counter is the latest state we agreed off-chain. Now the question is, this looks a bit too good to be true. So the question is, what if Bob stops responding? What if he stops cooperating in the channel? And there's good reasons why he would do this. Maybe Alice just sank his last Bottleship, and Bob has lost a $100 bet. Why would Bob ever sign away $100? He will cooperate and just be really, horrible until he gets his $100 back. So what if he doesn't respond? So every state channel has this dispute process that allows Alice to self-enforce the application's execution such that it will always progress. So how does she do this? So in the example we used, it's the most straightforward state channel that can probably ever exist. Alice will trigger a dispute on the blockchain. So he'll say, Bob's not cooperating. I need to trigger a dispute. I want to close the channel, and I want to redeploy the Bottleship game to the blockchain. Now, the smart contract will provide a fixed time period for both parties to respond. Alice will send the latest state of the game where she is just about to beat Bob. And Bob obviously can't send anything because that was the latest state. After the time period, Alice can resolve the dispute. Now, what the state channel will do is it will accept the latest state, it will unlock the Bottleship game with the state of the Bottleship game. And now Alice and Bob can just continue the Bottleship game via the blockchain. So that's basically, at a high-level view, how all this would work in a state channel. But even that doesn't come for free, which is really frustrating, because now we introduce the always online assumption. Both Alice and Bob must remain online and synchronized with the network. They have to watch out for disputes. And I want to give you an example of this. So let's just say Alice and Bob have played 4 Bottleship games. Let's say it's high stakes. Alice wins $1 million. And then Alice gets really excited. So Alice goes offline, she goes to a Lambo dealer, and she tries to buy a Lambo with her $100 million winnings. So while she's offline trying to be a Lambo bro, Bob decides, I want my $1 million back. I want to reverse that execution and get my money back. So what he does is that he triggers a dispute. He sends an older game state where he still has his $1 million. So he's reversed all 4 games. And now the blockchain keeps ticking. There's this dispute process, and if Bob's really lucky, the dispute process will expire, the Bottleship game will be unlocked, and he can get back his $1 million. So now it's tense. Is Bob going to get away with it? Is Alice going to come back online? And she is. She's going to come back online. She's going to save her $1 million. So he sends the latest state of the game where she still has her $1 million. And this is what we call an execution fork. Because while they agreed off-chain, the execution of the program, Bob just tried to revert it by using the blockchain and being taking the opportunity while Alice is offline. So this time last year, we were working on, how do we help alleviate this new security requirement? And this is where Pisa comes in. So Pisa is this leaning tower. I'm really bad at Photoshop, so it's supposed to lean towards the moon, because it's going to the moon. But anyway, it's this leaning tower. And the whole point is that it's a accountable third party. So before Alice goes offline, she could hire the third party to watch the channel on her behalf. And these are the goals we tried to satisfy. The first is state privacy. So when I hire this accountable third party, they should not be aware of the internal state of the channel. The second property is fair exchange. So when I hire this accountable third party, I get a signed and ratified receipt, and at the same time they get paid. So they get a micropayment for every job they accept. The other one we wanted was order one storage. So ideally, this accountable third party should only store one piece of information for every customer, the latest job that they received. And finally, recourse as a financial deterrent. So if Pisa and Bob collude and they cheat Alice, Alice should have some recourse. She should be able to get revenge and at least, penalize Pisa for doing this. So that was our goals when designing the protocol. There's two contracts again. We have the state channel contract, which is the cute little robot, and we have the Pisa contract as well. And the Pisa contract really only has two pieces of functionality. It accepts a large deposit, and then it just waits around for evidence. If there's any evidence that the accountable third party has cheated, Pisa will then strike and punish the accountable third party. So setting up Pisa, how do we do this? We have the accountable third party. He has a smiley face. He's really excited to make lots of money watching channels. And he just sends over the little deposit, or big deposit, I guess. And now it's been accepted, and now he can start watching channels. How do we achieve state privacy? So this actually comes from how we construct the state channel. So as I mentioned, every time we sign a new state, we don't actually sign the state. We sign a hash of the state with a blinding nonce as well. So the idea is that all the accountable third party will receive is a signature from every party, a hash, and the largest counter so far. So that's how we achieve state privacy, because the idea is that they should not be able to brute force the state. Then fair exchange of payment and the cryptographic receipt as well. So I don't have enough time to dive into this, but it's actually really straightforward. So if you're familiar with Lightning and conditional transfers, what I do is that I get a receipt from the accountable third party. It's been signed, but it's not yet ratified. I set up a conditional transfer with the accountable third party, where if they reveal a secret, my receipt will be ratified, and at the same time, they will then get paid. It's very simple. Here's TLC payment that I guess Dan doesn't like, but I like them. They're okay. And finally, what if Pisa cheats as well? So, the idea is that there's Alice, Bob, and this accountable third party. Alice hires the accountable third party. Alice goes offline. And then Pisa and Bob collude, and they steal Alice's money. If there's evidence that, Pisa has cheated, Alice will come back online, so you'll see that the channel is closed, and it wasn't based on the state that, the accountable third party was hired for. So, Pisa cheated to Alice, and that's really annoying. So, is it too late? Can Alice do anything about this? And she can, because she has this signed and ratified receipt that she has hired this accountable third party to watch the channel on her behalf. And there's also a record of the dispute on the blockchain, where the accountable third party could have responded, but they never did. So all Alice has to do is send the Pisa contract, this signed receipt, and signed and ratified receipt. The Pisa contract will verify it and say, yep, this was indeed, a signed receipt from one of the accountable third parties. It will then talk to the state channel and say, state channel, give me the disputes that have happened in your channel. The state channel will return maybe one or two disputes, whatever list there is. And then all the Pisa contract does is say, okay, I've got this receipt, I've got the dispute records. Was there a dispute within the time period? And, what counter did it finish on? So it's very straightforward for Pisa to verify that the accountable third party did not respond on behalf of Alice. And so what happens next is that the Pisa contract says, well, sorry, you cheated, you broke the contract in a sense, so I'm going to freeze your entire deposit, or I guess burn it in a sense. So now he's sad, he's got a tear, he lost his, his very large security deposit. So revenge is sweet. So the whole point here is that Pisa should only collude if by colluding they make more money than they will lose with the security deposit. Now in this scenario, Alice doesn't get compensated. There is a version where Alice could be compensated, and I can talk about that at the end if anyone has questions. And what I want to highlight is that Pisa is not the only solution. So in fact, TADS presented Monitor at Scaling Bitcoin in 2016, and to the best of my knowledge, the focus was state privacy. I'm a customer, I encrypt a blob, and I send this to the Monitor. So the Monitor should never learn about the internal state. The issue was that because of the way the Lightning channel is constructed, you basically have to sign, for every new payment in a Lightning channel, I have to give a new encrypted blob to this Monitor. So there's order and storage. So Watchtower was an improvement on this. The whole idea in Watchtower is that one, as a tower, I should be able to verify that whatever encrypted blob I receive can be used to resolve a dispute. And I should also have order one storage as well. But the issue is that relies on a new consensus rule in Bitcoin. I think Rosabeef's somewhere here. I think it's for sig hash no input. So right now it's not deployable in Bitcoin, which is quite frustrating. And Pisa, and it took me a long time to realize, what made Pisa really distinctful? Why was this really important for this type of work? And it's mostly around accountability. There's evidence that the tower has been hired, and now you can do some recourse to punish the tower as well. So that's basically how all the three different solutions compare. Now I'm going to have some final thoughts and start, wrapping up. So state channels are really exciting, as I said at the start. There's instant finality, there's no latency, and there's no transaction fees. In the best case scenario, there's 2 transactions on the blockchain. We set up the state channel, we close the state channel. But for Battleship, there's a really, 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 really bad worst case. And this is sort of the heart of what this experiment came out of. Because in the worst case scenario, Alice and Bob, they set up the state channel, they set up the Battleship game, and now they're committed to playing the game. A Battleship game has over 200 transactions. So what Bob does is Bob says, well, I'm not going to cooperate, Alice. I'm not going to sign any future state update. So now Alice is forced to trigger a dispute and redeploy the Battleship game. And now that both players have to finish the game on the blockchain. Now, why is this a really bad worst case? First, there's a transaction fee for every move, because now you're forced to play a Battleship game on the blockchain that you thought you would play in the state channel. And now there's blockchain latency as well. So Battleship's a turn-based game. You have to give a grace period for a transaction to get into the blockchain. So that might be 5 or 10 minutes, for example. So my question's to the audience. Okay, let's pretend you set up a state channel and there's a $100 bet. And now the counterparty has forced you to play this on the blockchain. Would you spend $24 to play the entire Battleship game? And in the worst case, would you wait around for 16 hours? Raise your hand if you would do that for a $100 bet. No one here would do it. Okay, one, you're dedicated, to the Battleship game. But that's the whole point, is this is human behavior. Bob's a bot, and in our experiment, it was actually 2 bots playing Battleship. That's the fun about this. So this is why it doesn't scale out. Because in the worst case scenario, you just take advantage of human behavior, you go back on the blockchain, and there's no way people are going to play Battleship on the blockchain. So what are the outstanding research problems because of this? So some questions I've had in the past is, have a reputation system. Maybe you'll only play Battleship if other people with good reputation. The problem in a state channel is that, and actually all channels together, while we can identify who triggered this dispute, but we can't identify why the channel was closed. Did Bob just refuse, or is Alice pretending that Bob never signed the state update? So we can't attribute blame to why the channel broke down. So in that case, you have to punish both parties for that. So reputation systems are non-trivial for the layer 2 channels so far. I don't know of a proposal yet that would be viable. The next question is, how do you induce cooperative behavior? So how can we set it up where both players just don't want to close the Battleship game, or they both want to continue off-chain? For smart contracts, like Battleship, it appears this can only be achieved if the smart contract is already reasonable to execute on the blockchain. If you're willing to execute the smart contract on the blockchain, you're willing to execute it in a state channel. Payments are slightly different, and this sort of comes back to Dan's talk. So Dan, you had a very good talk. You mentioned 3 times. What's interesting is that, let's just say I have a micropayment channel with YouTube. Every kilobyte they give me, I send them a Satoshi for that. Every intermediary transaction, there's a positive utility for both parties. I get my file, and they get paid. So because every intermediary transaction has a reward, there's possibly some way that could scale out, where we could do more payments that aren't typically doable on the blockchain. So for payments, there's some intuition to say we could induce cooperative behavior. For smart contracts, it's not clear yet if that's going to be the case. And finally, there's one outstanding research problem that is still unsolved. So one issue with a channel is that I won't use the dispute process if there's blockchain congestion. If the fees go from 2 cents to $20, it's no longer reasonable for me to resolve the dispute. So some ideas around that is, could the blockchain self-inspect congestion and say, well, out of the previous 1,000 blocks, only 200 were reasonable in terms of fees? That would be a really cool new opcode. And I've got some ideas how to do that, but that still remains an outstanding research problem. So I guess I'm going to summarize now. 2 years later, we are on the verge of practical and deployable state channels. There's so many constructions out there. We did an experiment. We can actually demonstrate how they work in practice. Magic unicorns need no longer apply. They're not this weird magical wizardry trick that people can't do. Most people here could do it within a few weeks. So thank you for listening. This is sort of a summary of the work we've done over the past 2 years. So Sprite's spearheaded by Andrew. Actually has one of the first state channel constructions. I always find that's like in the Sprite's paper, there's 2 elements. The pre-image manager and the state channel. The state channel doesn't get as much attention, but actually was one of the first state channel constructions that ever existed. Then Pisa was this accountable third party who you could hire to watch the channel in your behalf. Kitsune was this really basic state channel for playing Battleship and the Battleship experiment. And just in the past few weeks, me and Chris have been thinking of this idea called a state assertion channel. So one prominent state channel is, when I want to trigger a dispute, I have to eventually send the full application state. And for Battleship, that's like $1 or $2. So how could we do it where an honest party never has to send the full application state? And if an honest party does, they always get refunded for doing that. So that means a dispute has a near constant cost of around 20 cents, or around 70,000 gas in Ethereum. So I've just put that online today. It just got accepted at a workshop. We wrote it in about 5 days. I was really excited about it. So that's basically the summary of our work. And again, I have to thank my collaborators, Sarah, Ido, Syria, Andrew, and Chris, and the sponsors for our research. Without them, this would never be done. You can only do as much work without your collaborators. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Any questions for Patrick?
Oh, don't die.
So how do you achieve fair exchange off-chain?
What, for the receipt?
Yes.
It's a really cute little trick. So the idea is that as a customer, I give the Pisa Tower the information that should be in the receipt.
Yes.
The Pisa Tower will then compute a secret, and the hash is part of the receipt. So now they send over a signed receipt with this hash.
Yes.
But it's not yet viable. It's signed, but it's not ratified. So as the customer, I now set up this conditional transfer. I say, Pisa, if you reveal the pre-image of this hash, you will get the payment. If they reveal the pre-image, my receipt is now ratified because I have the receipt and Pisa's secret, the pre-image of their hash. At the same time, because it's a conditional transfer, they also get paid.
Then this payment should be an on-chain payment, right?
A what? No, it's just a normal HTLC conditional transfer. It's exactly how you would do it in Lightning. So because the idea is that off-chain, if there's a condition, they give me the secret, and then we both cooperate, and we just remove the condition altogether. In the worst-case scenario, I can broadcast the conditional transfer to the blockchain, and then the payment sent.
Yeah, okay.
Awesome.
So I feel like for the application agnostic state channel, I like the idea.
Sorry. How do I shut this up? There you go. Okay.
It sort of makes an assumption that the users on each of the application that they use are verifying these states.
Yep.
But are there primitives for users to be able to build these verification tools that they can find correct in verifying the state? And how
Well,
does
the
that-
idea, so there's two elements to this. So right now, there's just a single smart contract. So what I do is that I just use a smart contract that's already on Ethereum, and I just run the function myself. So we're both running the exact same code that's already on Ethereum, for example. What would be nice, and what I'm really excited about is, if this was like a zero-knowledge program, then we could just, every new turn, like every time we send a new state update, it just has a new proof that says this is the new state of or at least that the game was run correctly. So with the zero-knowledge proofs like Starks and Snarks, we could scale out of the computation we can do, and the state channel is just enforces, that everyone agrees to the new proof.
Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Other questions? Great. Okay, well, thanks a lot. And now we have a break till